I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is for Chess with Investors. This video is sponsored by Cardinal Financial, and the topic is "This Guy Smokes the Rook." Look, if you've been following Gotham Chess, that's his big tagline here, is he sacked the Rook and all that kind of stuff. But right now, it's September 2025, and Chess.com has a bunch of different bots that they are using. They're named after different pieces with little pixel art. And so I know that's pretty amazing that we're going to be starting, but it's rated 1800. I know, right? 1800. It sounds like a lot. It kind of is, but of course these bots frequently they'll make some sort of mistake. It makes it a little bit easier. So with no further ado, let me go ahead and add the board here. Okay, here we go. You can see the rook up at the top. Now there's some disagreement as far as the accuracy of this game. On the desktop it says I was only 73.2 to the rook's 65.5. That's because it says I got 21 of the best moves, 21 excellent moves, whereas my phone says I got 28 best moves and gives it a wait for that to fade in here. Yeah, it always likes to overexpose. It says 87.8 on there, but let's get started here. So once again, I'm playing with white, and so that means I start off with NF3, basically finding out what the opponent wants to do. He comes out with a Sicilian by moving out his C to c5, and I say, okay, I'll take this opportunity to fianchetto my bishop in the corner to basically target this rook over here eventually. And he comes out with d6. The computer doesn't like that too much. I fianchetto, just like I said. It recommended that I match the c pawn out there, and because I've got time, nothing's going to stop me from nothing's going to really attack my bishop in the corner here. So that's what that's all about. And so he decides to take up more of the center, and I say, you know what, I'm going to push that here just so that he doesn't end up moving out here, but it says that moving this one out is still a better move. Anyway, so he comes out with his knight threatening this, which is a little bit of a problem, but I decide, okay, fine, I'll do more or less symmetrical structure, support this pawn from that knight by just moving out that way. He brings out his other knight, and I castle my king to get it off to the side. Leaving your king in the middle of the board is usually a bad idea in most openings. And he brings out a bishop just to get more of his pieces out and able to attack. I push this out because I want to get more stuff going on. I'm thinking that my knight will go right here. I think I was planning on doing that once I have my knight here, but we'll see what happens. So he pushes out to start making an attack on my center. And I go, you know what, I'll let you take that because I'm willing to trade queens because I've already castled, so my rook will cover my queen. But I pin this knight so that if I can get it to make a mistake and move that knight, then I collect the queen. It's unlikely, but it's more or less standard practice. He decides to take the pawn. The computer says that's a bad idea. And I say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take that knight to see if he takes this way with his pawn or if he takes with his queen. He decides to take with the pawn, and it recommends to take with the queen. So I take back right here, and we end up trading queens. Okay, so that's kind of a crazy thing when you first get started. You know, why would you get rid of your best piece? But there are lots of reasons to do that, and usually you'll end up doing that anyway. So he moves over this rook over to try and put some pressure here. Maybe if I end up losing this pawn, then the bishop will be pinned, so it loses all efficacy, I guess would be the way to say it. I didn't have much anywhere to go. There was no real point of moving over here because moving this pawn up here doesn't achieve anything, and as it stands, the nice thing is that this pawn is covering that square and that square, which is somewhere that the knight, if I can draw my lines a little bit better, it wants to go here or here. So leaving the pawn there is a good idea, so I move it over there, and the computer says that's basically fine. So he ends up moving his pawn out here to prevent my knight from going right there. And I go, okay, well, I'm going to move this up and then that up. This also gives me another square for my knight to go to. It doesn't like this move right here. It says that because it doesn't really achieve anything. Sure, it targets this pawn right here, but I have some ways to easily diffuse that situation. Like even if I move that over here, my bishop will cover it. and I end up moving over here because that covers it. But as it said a second ago, it said the best move was actually to do this according to the computer. Is just completely ignore it and continue. I think the reason for that is because it wants me to do something like this, or if this bishop gets into play, I can fork the knight and the bishop with my rook. I'll do it again so it's a little less messy. So you can see that if my rook's right here, I can threaten both of those, even though they're both covered by pawns, but whatever. Next up, let's resume. So I move my knight out of the way and defend this pawn. He ends up threatening my rook like that, but that's okay because I got a second rook covering it, and I decide, yeah, let's trade. It doesn't like that. It thinks I should have moved my knight here again. So I'm not entirely clear what the computer has in mind, and sometimes the computer, if you actually run through the follow-ups, you'll actually see that often the computer lines don't even make sense anyway. It's a good way for finding cheaters. But anyway, so he takes back. I go check again. It still wants me to move that knight over there. It just loves that idea of that knight being there. And he blunders. He says, hey, you want a horsey? And I'm like, yes, I'd like the horsey. So I do the best move and take the horsey. And by this point, I'm now up 2 points of material, which is good. I can start to breathe a little bit easier here. And so I decide, all right, let's do this. Yeah, the move it was begging for, and it doesn't like it. It says I should have moved back. I think it's so that right, it's probably so that I move the pawn here, and then I can move the knight there, or something like that. But anyway, he takes my knight. I take back. He moves his rook to the back row. It doesn't really do much of anything. I end up moving my rook over to threaten that pawn right there. He moves closer to defend the pawn. I move my knight like this, which apparently was the best move, and it's basically to get more pieces into the action. He ends up moving his bishop over here. It limits some of my movement, like if like going here or here. Both of those are bad news for my rook, but I move that there because if he really wants to take with his bishop, I can take back with the knight, and I've got the advantage. He ends up moving his pawn up here. He moves it 2 spaces, and we're going to see what Hikaru likes to call the glitch move. A lot of people say that somebody was hacking or cheating. If they do, en passant, okay, which is when the opponent does the 2-space move, and you've got something on the 5th rank if you're white or the 4th rank if you're black. When that pawn passes you like that, you can capture as if it only moved 1. So that's what I did. It says it's the best move because it's covered by my rook, so the king can't just take it. Now he moves over here, which is clearly not a great move. I ended up moving this over here to try and get more stuff over here, including like maybe if I have to sacrifice my bishop at some point to try and promote this pawn that way. So he covers, which is the best move, and then I move up here to threaten the bishop. It wasn't that great because he can move over here, and that causes me new problems, but that's okay because at this point I'm already up a full piece. You can see I'm up 3 points of material here. And so I move here to basically target this pawn, which would allow me to attack the rook as well. So he moves that out of the way, as he ought to, and then I start moving this up here so that on the next move I can support this pawn, which frees up my rook to do something different and attack something else. He moves this up here to prevent that protecting move, and so I move over here because this is now hanging. Of course, if I take this one, he can take the pawn back, which is not so great. And he moves over here to basically protect his bishop. Maybe he was planning for me to go right here and threaten the bishop, but I don't think that that's a particularly great move. So I move my pawn up here to try and break up this this section here, expecting he'll probably take right here and I can take back. It's a little bit of wishful thinking, I think, but he ends up going for it. I take with the knight because that way these pawns are isolated. I understand why the computer thinks it's not the greatest thing that you could do, but because basically if I want to hit this pawn, I'll have to move this up, which is a little bit clunky. He's only one move away from that, and then and since this is one move, he'll probably be here by the time I need to pull that off. So I take the bishop back. He moves that up there. I still move this. It's crazy. He's actually it's saying that the best move would be to sacrifice my rook, which I think is a little bit nuts, because if he takes like that, then how exactly do you expect to get this? It'd probably have to be 1, 2. Okay, so let's walk through that again. So if he ends up taking like that, then I end up taking back. So I got that pawn there, which is pretty cool. He moves right here. I move my bishop right there, so that if he tries to promote on that square, the bishop will be able to hit him. So that's how that goes. That's how the computer wants me to act. But instead, I end up moving to attack this way, and then he takes my pawn like that. And so now I've got check right here to set up that attack as well. He moves over here to threaten my rook, but that's okay, because now I'm saying I'm going to promote. So I start moving this pawn up to the end. He goes like that, and I do that move that I was saying a second ago, protecting the promotion square, which is a bit scary because that comes with check, but it says that that was a bad idea. You can see the important thing is this rook is protected by this pawn, because otherwise he'd be able to scoop that up. But I get out of the way. He comes up again. I move over here. It wants me to go on the attack with my king and attack the rook, so that wasn't so great. But he moves his rook up here to protect the promotion square, and I say I'm promoting anyway, and I scoop it up with my rook. So now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 pawns against my 2 pawns and a rook. So that means I'm up 3 points of material, and the fact that these 2 pawns are on the same file, that's not so great, because I can scoop them both up, which isn't what the computer actually wants me to do. It actually wants me to move over here to use my king to stop that pawn from advancing, and it probably realizes that this pawn is going to be the one that I need to try to promote. But he comes over to try and start attacking. Now, one trick that you can do here with the rooks, which is pretty sweet, is you can completely cut off a given file from a king if you just keep your distance. So I take that. So basically what I'm saying, because this rook is here, there's nowhere on this file here that the king can approach. So basically it means that I can go ahead and scoop this up and then promote this pawn, which is basically what's going to happen. So here I move it all the way up here, just because if he wants to chase my rook for a few moves, I'll just keep on moving to opposite sides so he can't catch me. So I pick up the pawn. He decides I'm going to come over here, and I'm like, you know what, this pawn is far enough that I can make sure it promotes even without the help of the rook, but I don't want him eating this pawn, capturing this pawn, and then letting this guy promote. It says, the computer says that it's now mate in 15, so it's basically completely certain. I end up moving my king out of the way to allow him to promote, and this is basically, these are really important squares for your king to wind up on, so that the king has no way to access the promotion square. But of course it doesn't matter, because the rook would protect it anyway. So he just does some random moves trying to approach. You can see already there's absolutely no way for him to get at that pawn. I promote to a queen. Now some people are tempted to just scoop up the last pawn. That's actually bad for your accuracy. It says there's a mate in 3 here, and I think it started with this. Yeah, it's there, and then there, and then there is mate. But I was tired when I was smoking the rook, as they say. Nobody says that, but anyway. So moving that there, he comes down here. I go check, and there's mate right there. So that is how I smoked the rook. And I hope you enjoyed that piece. Now, again, I mentioned already that that this episode is sponsored by Cardinal Financial. Right now, it is getting to be time to prepare your audited financials for your investors. So if you either have a hedge fund, a VC fund, a PE fund, any of those, then you probably want to talk to Ryan Yates via LinkedIn, and that's through Cardinal Financial and Cardinal Financial Consulting. The website, the domain is cardinalfinancialconsulting.com. And I should be able to throw a little graphic over here with the QR code, so you can either book an appointment with Ryan to talk about building your own fund, or what sort of financial services he can help you out with. He's got experience at one of America's biggest banks, which is one of the biggest banks in all of the world. And it was during a period where they were aggressively expanding their balance sheet in the alternative investment space, in other words, real estate and similar type assets other than stocks. So he's a really great person to talk to with absolutely no commitment. Anyway, that's what I got for you today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye.
My background has been in alternative investments for the past 20 years. I've seen just about every type of fund, worked on the accounting and operations side, and even at some of these big banks that I worked for, worked on a lot of projects behind the scenes to really hone my craft and, create Cardinal Financial Consulting and help people set up the right structures, handle the accounting and operations behind the scenes, and really take that away from the CEO's responsibility to make their lives streamlined. Sorry.
Oh, hey there. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you are into chess, if you play chess and you're an investor of some sort, real estate or otherwise, well, you can be on the show too. I know, right? All you have to do is connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Dan Fredenberg, so I'm super duper easy to find on LinkedIn, where I spend most of my social media time. But if you're one of those people who just don't play chess, don't pay attention to him. I don't judge. All you have to do is go to dandoesdeals.com and you'll find the Chance Encounter series, where you're welcome to be a guest on it, where you can share your core competencies that you're likely to contribute to a GP team or a JV. You don't have to be doing syndications. And we'll talk about your buy box and stuff like that. It's easy peasy. It's like 15 minutes long to record, and there are no real fastball questions. Just tell the truth and everybody will be fine. And if that's not really your thing, dandoesdeals.com, it also has the way to meet more, join more people, add more people to your investor list, your different deal sponsor operators and KPs and passive investors, all that kind of stuff. I'm probably repeating myself, but I'll give you the rest of your day. I appreciate you watching Chess with Investors. See you next time. Bye.